Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by Inside Texas. I'm back with my cohort, Justin Wells. We've got another great episode here on the Inside Texas YouTube channel. Got a lot of great things going on here. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't miss any of the content we put on here. Justin, happy Tuesday. How are you doing today?
Brother, there's a lot going on today, Joe. A lot going on the last few days. But I'm doing great. We're this close to National Signing Day. We get to talk about a playoff for the next 3 weeks, which we've never really got to do that. And then Santa Claus is coming in a couple weeks. And if you ask my son, that's more important than going to basketball practice this afternoon. So, brother, I'm living the life.
A lot of things going on: recruiting, portal, NIL, playoff. We're going to touch a little bit on all those today. Let's start with recruiting, because tomorrow we finally hear the decision of four-star cornerback in Waco Connolly's Kobe Black. Inside Texas will have great coverage at announcement. Justin, you've gotten to know the Black family pretty well over the course of his recruitment. What's one part of this entire process that's really stood out to you about how Kobe's gone through it, schools have gone through it? What's one aspect that really stands out to you as the recruitment comes to a close tomorrow?
When you see recruits on the level that Kobe's at, the elite, your high 4-star, your 5-star types, they enjoy it at first, but then it becomes too much. It becomes way too much because the attention, the phone calls, the coaches, I mean, it becomes a lot. And so sometimes kids change through the process. Kobe Black never changed. Kobe Black never got stressed. You know, when they have all these different schools and people constantly asking, you know, who's your top 5? What officials are you taking? You know, when are you going to make a decision? Kobe was always cooler than the other side of the pillow. He's like, yeah, I'm figuring it out. I'll know when I know. Then I'll let everybody know. I got to know his parents really well, and I would talk to his dad, and I'm like, is Kobe really just this, just this easy going when it comes to this process? And he goes, he kind of is. He saw his older brothers go through recruitments, and his dad was a college player, played at Kansas State with Michael Bishop in the late 90s. So they understood what he was going to get into. Kobe knew what was going to happen before this all started a couple years ago. That's what stands out to me. Kobe is still the same kid. He's still the same easygoing, easy to talk to. Fans are always wanting his decision. Well, they want his decision because he's a really good corner, because he's going to come in and be an impact guy wherever he chooses. But, man, Kobe's been cool the entire time. He hasn't changed his personality, and he hasn't become flustered or anxious or anything like that. Now, I think his parents would probably tell you they wish he'd have made this decision a lot sooner, but they let Kobe handle all this, and he's handled it very, very well.
You've been all over this recruitment. You've been heading to Waco plenty. You've seen him play a few times. Kobe's got teammates who are at Texas, former teammates in Trey Wisner and Jelani McDonald. He's got family at Oklahoma State. He's got suitors at A&M, LSU, I think Oklahoma or Ohio State. One of those two are the other ones. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll have a lot more in depth on that. It's been a fun recruitment to follow just because, like you said, he's handled it maturely. Hasn't been any silliness. It's gone on, but it hasn't been like a silly recruitment or an annoying one for, I think, people to cover or to follow. And I think that's a great testament to what everybody in the Black family and over at Waco Connolly have been able to do. Before we get going on the next part of our show, going into a little bit more recruiting, got to mention our great sponsor, Andre the Lawyer. He never takes more than their clients. No win, no pay, and no upfront costs when Andre the Lawyer is your lawyer. Their principal office is in Dallas, Texas, and they've been representing injured Longhorns throughout the state of Texas. Every client gets a personalized text message number so they can contact the team and get direct access to their lawyer all day and night. Contact Andre the Lawyer at 214-444-8808. Whether you're in car wreck, 18-wheeler accident, slip and fall, job injuries, or wrongful death, 214-444-8808 to talk to Andre the Lawyer. getting back to the show, we used to play a little over-under game back when it was peak recruiting season, where there were visits, there were official visits, there was a bunch of different things going on. We used to always set over-unders at how many commits would the Texas Longhorns have before we recorded our next show. Now, even if we record next Tuesday, which we plan on doing, signing day is next Wednesday. And we might as well just push it all the way to signing day next Wednesday with our over-under game. There are official visits. There are in-home visits. There are a lot of different things going on. So I'm going to set the total at 2.5. You going over from high school? You going over or under?
I'm going to go under. I feel good about two guys. And I know Texas is in the mix for a couple others. They're definitely still talking to guys like Solomon Williams and Terrence Hibbler and Alex Foster, Dominic McKinley. They're going to do an in-home with the Acadiana, Louisiana kid on Friday. I mean, if it went over, I would not be surprised. But there are two of them I feel real good about right now. And so I'm going to go under. I want your take, though. What do you think?
I think that's the safe bet. We're actually doing betting on this. But there, you mentioned it right there. And there's, 4 guys right there. They're poking around with some 2024 wide receivers. They have all those defensive linemen, including guys like Terrence Hibbler, I think, from Mississippi.
Terrence Hibbler Jr., Mississippi State, yeah.
Of course, we just looked and talked about Kobe Black. And the other big one is Xavier Filsaime, the McKinney 5-star who's currently committed to the Florida Gators. There are a number of great candidates from that group, but I just don't see 3 materializing like you do as well. I think 2 is probably the safe number there. We'll see when those 2 happen, how those 2 happen. If either of those 2 make it to campus over the next week, definitely something to check out on Inside Texas, where visitors will be coming in. It's kind of the last opportunity before the signing period and the dead period. Lots of great intel there. We'll keep you posted, and it'll be good to check in on pretty constantly.
Yeah. One note, too, is this is through early National Signing Day. So Ryan Williams, who just reclassified, doesn't fall into this category. For any people that are watching that might want to ask us at InsideTexas.com, come hang out with us. It's a great time. That's Ryan Williams is going to take it to February. So we'll get into that subject later on. But this was before early National Signing Day, which is essentially about a week. And that's, man, I have to go safe. You know me, when we do our betting stuff, I'm always going safe. That's probably why I win more.
There was some other NIL news today that came out through On3. Justin, you got something on that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. The Texas One Fund and WME come out with a deal. Jeremy Crabtree had a story about it earlier at On3. It sounds like another NIL package kind of coming together, working. If Texas needed any more, that they're getting more. But you're more dialed in on that side of it, and so I wanted to ask you exactly what is the WME deal, and kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, so WME is one of the biggest agencies out there in sports. They kind of made their name first with some tennis superstars, with Serena Williams and Novak Djokovic, but they started to move more into the sports scene. And when you have one of the biggest agencies on your side, and especially one that's putting a office in Austin to help with this and to help the Texas One Fund, it's a huge win for Texas. You've got professionals, which some of this industry doesn't have a lot of quite yet.
Yeah.
You've got professionals who are there helping Longhorn athletes market themselves, get into deals, things like that. And one of the big things that I thought was great about Crabtree's article was it's got Chris Del Conte in a news release. And I think that's always been a little bit of an underappreciated part of some of these different NIL releases. You can have, Jordan Whittington can sign a deal, and it's awesome. He's getting paid. He's getting what's rightfully his for name, image, and likeness. But, sometimes it's on his own. And that's not a bad thing. But when you have Chris Del Conte coming in and saying, this is good, I like this, this is something that I support and that Texas fans can and should support and be happy for, I think that's huge as far as mentality, because like it or not, there are some people who are still repulsed at the idea of NIL, that a scholarship, education, all the stuff that they get as student athletes should be enough. When you have the athletic director who has to push for all those different things for those student athletes, saying, no, this is important too, and he's done this multiple times as well, I always look at that. When there's the seal of approval from him, the seal of approval from Patrick Wheels Smith, the director of the Texas One Fund.
Wheels.
I mean, it's just something that you don't find elsewhere. You're not getting these big agencies moving into a place like Austin, or you're not getting them moving into smaller towns. They're really just not, because it doesn't behoove them to. When you're in a growing metropolis like Austin, even though you can be the college student and the man on campus on the 40 acres, you've got a city of a million plus around you that you can tap into. We saw Bijan Robinson do it. We've seen Xavier Worthy, Quinn Ewers, a bunch of different guys, Jordan Whittington do it. And this is something that's only going to help Texas, and I think will help differentiate them from so many other different NIL just organizations, opportunities that some colleges are able to provide.
It shows that they're proactive, Joe. This is an ever-evolving circumstance. This thing is, we talk about portal and high school recruiting. It is fluid, and there's so many changes going along, and it just shows to me Del Conte and those guys being proactive, not just being, happy and content with what's going through right now, which is, they're doing really well in NIL. But this, to me, it's above and beyond.
We'll move a little bit into portal news. That's not specifically related to NIL in this case, but it is kind of in the big picture. A lot of portal news, the quarterbacks around the country, Texas rivals to the north having some big portal additions and subtractions, just all different things going on with the portal. But the Longhorns one big story that's coalesced is their pursuit of Clemson defensive back Andrew Mukuba. He was a member of the class of 2021, I believe, from Austin LBJ, coached by Texas Director of High School Relations Jamal Fenner. Had some great seasons for the Clemson Tigers, including his freshman year under Brent Venables at Oklahoma. Obviously, there's some connections there. There's connections all over the country, and he's got his Austin connection, as we mentioned. So, Justin, we put out a little bit of info on Mukuba today on Inside Texas, but what do you have what's kind of the latest with Texas and Mukuba, who seems to become their clearest portal priority?
Well, what we have learned is that there is nothing haste or rushed about Texas in the portal process. They take their time. In the position this roster's in, I think they have the leverage to do that. They don't have to rush. They don't have to take a chance on somebody. They can go through these guys. Mukuba is a guy that they will thoroughly eval, and he's an easy fit. This is a guy that they're going to need to replace the star in nickel next year. And Mukuba can do a lot of little things. He can play both safety spots. He can play that nickel. I think it's imperative, actually. And I think he wants to see the schools. He wants to see a few schools. He wants to connect with a few coaches. I feel like Texas is going to be probably the last trip. He's supposed to see Oklahoma. And listen, that one's going to be tough. Brent Venables, head coach there now in Norman. You mentioned it. There's a connection there, and they like each other. He's going to see Ole Miss. And you mentioned earlier how NIL and the portal don't go together. You weren't talking about Ole Miss. And so that is an extension as well. USC is in the mix. Oregon wants to get him up there for a trip. And any kid that's ever visited the University of Oregon, buddy, that's like seeing a spaceship. It's a really nice place. So Mukuba's he's going to take a little bit of time. He's in no rush. None of these guys are. Your higher level guys can take as long as they want. In some cases, obviously, you'd have to be enrolled by January. But Texas is in a great spot. Texas is in a real good spot. I love the connection with Fenner. I think that's huge. I wish Texas would have gotten in better the first time this recruitment came through. I remember meeting him in 2019, 2020 in a 7-on-7 camp. And it was easy. It was easy to see then that he just had this track and smack type ability, type of athleticism, and he's Clemson picks well. They come into Texas. They usually pick their evaluations really well. And so when he popped down on the portal, I know everybody in our staff eyes kind of opened up, lit up. It's like, wait a minute, This one makes way too much sense. And in some of these cases, we don't have to overthink it. Andrew Mukuba is a guy that you don't have to overthink. He's a culture fit. He's a physical fit, emotional fit. He's lived in the city, so it won't overwhelm him. To me, it makes all the sense in the world. It's still portal recruiting. So you still have to pay attention to the other schools because you don't know who's going to come up potentially with a bigger, better bag. That's part of it. And you don't know where it might come from. But at the end of the day, I love where Texas is at with Mukuba. I love that relationship. I love that there's a spot. A lot of times with portal guys, they want to know if they're going to play or not, if they're going to start or not. And I love that Texas can sell, we actually have a spot for you. Jahdae Barron is going to be playing in the league next year. And we have this area here that we could use your talent, your versatility. And so for me, I think that's the biggest fit. It's that you don't have to promise him anything. Look at the depth chart. There's a spot wide open there for you right now. We've got a lot of young kids that have played that spot, but a veteran who was the defensive All-American his freshman year, yeah, that's a guy that would fit in, and I think that's why Mukuba in Texas makes too much sense.
I'm almost certain that Barron and Mukuba may have been teammates on the same 7-on-7 team. There's one in Austin, and even if not, Pflugerville and where LBJ is, not
they all know each other.
Those in football players from the same city, even a city as big as Austin, the ones that are really good, they hang out with each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if even Jahdae Barron himself has reached out to Mukuba and given him a little sell on what you're talking about. There is a little bit of a difference between him and Barron that I think we do need to acknowledge, and Ian Boyd did this earlier today on Inside Texas, is that Mukuba he was a safety in high school. He's a safety at Clemson, and he got moved to their star position this year kind of for the first time. And he has the athletic traits that a lot of safeties don't have to where he could cover slot receivers. Barron was a little different. Barron was a corner to start with out of Pflugerville Conley.
Right.
And, obviously he played a lot of corner this season even. But then he moved into star, became really great at it, and sees himself bounce back a little bit. And, just a corner who could fit in the run really well. So a little bit of difference there, but, finding these guys is difficult. Just the fact that there was a star position in the portal to recruit, you don't find those very often. It took Texas a long time, regardless of scheme, to find the right guy for that role, and Barron's been huge in it. I think Texas, I do wonder, and maybe we can go on to this in another conversation. I do wonder if it's you want to be first to get the visit or you want to be last to get the visit. Sometimes with high school recruiting, you want to be last. Maybe sometimes with portal recruiting, you want to be first. But it's tough that he's going to come see the hometown team. It's hard to think that he's going to not give them a chance, especially with his high school coach there. So that's a fun one to follow. I've had a lot of information on Inside Texas about that one. Make sure you check that one out. Before we get into one quick playoff question, got to mention our sponsor one more time, Andre the Lawyer. Again, never takes more than their clients. No win, no pay, no upfront cost. Principal office is in Dallas, Texas. So if you need help, whether you're in a car wreck, 18-wheeler accident, slip and fall, on-the-job injury, or wrongful death, call Andre the Lawyer, 214-444-8808. 214-444-8808. Justin, like I mentioned, we can't get out of here without a playoff question. About 2 weeks, a little bit more than 2 weeks until we start getting into the week of for the playoffs. But let's talk about what's going on right now. As Eric Naleen and Drew Kelson talked about yesterday, this is a time of rest, recovery before they really start getting back to practice later this week. Longhorns, if you play 13 football games in 15 weeks, you're going to be pretty banged up. You may not be more banged up than other teams, but it's a tough, violent sport, and it takes a toll on people. So for the Longhorns specifically, whose return to as close to full health as possible will be the most critical for them against the Huskies?
That's a really good question. I think we just spoke about him. Jahdae Barron. Jahdae has not been healthy this year. Since week 3 or week 4, he's had some – actually, going into the summer, I think he had a few ailing issues. And so he has never really been fully healthy this year. And even he wasn't supposed to play in the Texas-Houston game. And by halftime, they had him in a uniform. It was that important. And he had to play corner. So to me, that guy is the most underrated dude on that defensive side. Everybody talks about T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, and for good reason. I mean, they're big boys. They might get you. But Barron is so critical there. So critical for the reasons you had mentioned. And so I'm going to say Jahdae Barron, get that guy healthy. I know he's had, I think, some foot stuff, a toe thing. Get healthy, get right, because, listen, Washington's going to spin the pill. They're going to throw that thing all over the field. They take more deep shots than any team in college football. And Jahdae Barron's going to be needed in a lot of that. And so, to me, it's about Barron getting healthy. What about you?
I think that's my number one as well. I think you mentioned anything I wanted to say about Barron. I'll give you number two, though, Ryan Watts. And that's not to discount what Malik Muhammad and Terrence Brooks, even Gavin Holmes have been able to do at the corner position with Watts out for the past, basically 2 games minus 1 play.
Yeah.
But Watts was really good last year against McMillan, Odunze, and Polk. He's been great this year, although I'm not sure how much his run stuffing ability will be needed against Washington. It's always great to have. You've seen him make really smart plays like the K-State play. You haven't seen, you see him get physically burned, just like, well, the guy's a little faster, guy's a little taller. But
his corners get burned.
Yeah, that's part of playing the position. You don't really see him out of position. And while you haven't seen that much from Muhammad or Brooks, they're still young players, and they're probably more likely to have that happen to them than someone like Watts. So Barron for sure, Watts number 2. If we want to make a pick on the offensive side of the ball, I think there's 2 options there. And number 1's Quinn Ewers. I think we know that he's been playing really good football. We've seen it with our own eyes. But when you have a shoulder injury and you're a quarterback, it still takes some time to get going. And I think he's had time to get up to speed, get to where he needed to be playing good football. But, hey, the ability to maybe just take a week off, not have to throw, just give that shoulder some rest,
it matters.
I think it's pretty important, and I think is going to be crucial for a game plan that may see Sarkisian emphasize Quinn Ewers' passing ability like he did last year against the Huskies.
Hey, and don't forget, I'll give you another offensive player. Get X right. We have seen X on crutches at the end of too many games the last couple months. We reported, I believe it was Sunday or Monday, that Worthy was out of the boot and he was healthy and is expected to go through practices, which start on Friday, bowl practices rather. And so playoff, that is playoff practice. We haven't been able to say that yet. I was correcting it and didn't even have to. Xavier Worthy on the offensive end. For as much as Quinn Ewers needs to put the cannon back in the box just for a little while to let it rest, kind of get it. Xavier Worthy. You want to get somebody super healthy. You want to make sure he's going to be an impact guy. If you want to beat Washington, because they've got a good secondary. They will play well. You want to beat Washington, you got to have a healthy Quinn and a healthy X. And so on the offensive side, give me Worthy.
I think those are 2 great choices, 4 great choices overall. And, of course, Justin, another great video with you overall, making our debut on the Inside Texas Football channel. We'll be here a lot. We'll be here all week after games, throughout the offseason, covering recruiting team. Got a lot of great things in store for this channel. Make sure you like the video, subscribe so you don't miss a single moment of it. Justin, looking forward to this week. Some big recruiting news, a lot of different big news. It's going to be fun to cover. Thank you so much as always.
I'll be at the state championship. Obviously I'll be in Waco on Wednesday. I'll be at the state championship Friday morning for the first game. Tyler Chapel Hill against Anna. Chapel Hill has a defensive back, Demetrius Brisbane, with a Texas offer. They're still talking. He's committed to SMU. Anna has a budding offensive lineman, 2027, 6'4", 290-pound Peyton Miller. Hey, man, the content is going to be flowing this weekend at InsideTexas.com. Come hang out with us. It's a good time.
$1 for 1 month or 50% off an annual subscription with our playoff special. Make sure you check us out. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time on Inside Texas Football.